So, hi Katie, thank you so much for helping us with our employability gear video project. We're going to run through some questions about your role, and we'll think also about training and skills that are needed.
Okay.
So if we start with you and who you are, so if you could introduce yourself and also tell us about your role and also your organisation.
So I'm Katy McKenna, I'm the Marketing Communications Director here at GA Solicitors. GA has been in Plymouth now for over 200 years, so we're a very established law firm. We deal with all types of law, so covering a lot of sort of the commercial elements, also supporting families and individuals as well. So we've got sort of seven core departments, then specialist teams within that too.
Thank you. So what's the core function of a professional working in marketing and communications?
So communications is kind of the key word, really.
Right.
So there's all different types of communications. So we're obviously communicating with clients, you're communicating with potential clients, you're communicating with staff, you're communicating with media. So that's kind of the core function, really. And then regards to what you're communicating and how you're communicating it in regards to channels, that's obviously where the expertise then comes in terms of being a marketing professional and knowing how to communicate to those individuals and the best way to do that.
Okay. What attracted you to a role in marketing communications?
If I'm very honest, I wasn't too sure what to study, and I saw PR in the prospectus and thought it sounded really glamorous and would pay really well. So that's my initial reason for then going and studying PR. Soon found out it wasn't quite as glamorous as I expected, and you do actually spend most of the day just sat at a computer writing emails or on the phone to journalists. But that said, there's a real thrill in picking up the phone and speaking to a national journalist, or seeing a news release that you've written in the local paper or in a magazine, and also then seeing your hard work also affect the amount of work that comes into the business as well. So there's a real rewarding element to it. So probably the reason why I went into it wasn't there, but it all worked out very well in the end.
Great. So what do your day-to-day responsibilities include?
So my day-to-day responsibilities are quite varied. So because I cover the traditional forms of marketing as well as the newer digital types of marketing, that means there's actually quite a lot of work to be done. So I could be sort of dealing with the media and writing news releases, or I can be updating social media channels, I can be writing award submissions, doing e-marketing and creating sort of e-marketing emails, updating the website, and also got to do the search engine optimization for the website as well. So there's so many different elements to marketing now, because you've got the traditional forms as well as the digital forms that also are crucially important.
Great. And for you then, in all of that responsibility and the various things, what do you see as the greatest challenges of the role?
There's quite a few challenges. I think probably starting here, one of the key challenges that I realised is being able to market the firm in a cohesive way with all its many different departments. So for an example, the commercial team obviously deals with a lot of business clients, very, very professional. We've got our trust and planning department, which deals with very, very wealthy individuals. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we've got our personal injury team, which deals with people across the spectrum. And then we've got a family team, which just focuses on legal aid clients. So trying to market to all of these different demographics and doing it in such a way that doesn't turn off another demographic is actually a bit more difficult than you'd probably imagine. Because say one thing that will appeal to one group will completely switch off another to the firm. So trying to do it in a cohesive way that benefits the whole firm as well as the individual departments has been quite a challenge to kind of get right.
Right. So on the flip side, what's the greatest success of being in the role?
There's been quite a few successes. We've had quite a lot of exciting times at GA, which is great. So I'd say one of the key successes that I've particularly had would be on the internal communication side. So that's one thing that's really quite important. And before I started, so I've been at GA for 7 years now, before I started there wasn't really a plan at all for internal communications. There was sort of an ad hoc attempt for management to speak to members of staff, but there wasn't really anything structured in place. So when I joined, I started an annual survey where we kind of questioned staff on communications, on morale, and on what they thought worked, what didn't. And I've carried that on year, and obviously each year I've been implementing various different new channels to communicate to staff, ways to get them engaged. The way that survey, sort of the answers that we're getting now to what we got 7 years ago, it's really shown a difference in how important just those key communication skills are in terms of getting staff involved. So that's definitely been one of the key successes. Probably our award wins that we've had as well. So we've had quite a few award wins nationally as well as locally. So having that's been a real kind of stamp of credibility for the firm and for the work that we do. So that we've had our conveyancing team was named the best in the entire UK which is fantastic. And also the Law Society was shortlisted for one of their national awards, which meant we got to go to a nice swanky affair in London. So the awards, I think, particularly have been really good.
Fantastic. And they're really visual and tangible. They make you feel like, yeah, we've got it.
Yeah.
From all of your experience, because you've not just worked in law firms, but from all of them, what makes working in marketing communications for law particularly interesting?
I think it is the fact that there's different departments. So as well as working in an in-house role, I've done a lot of agency work as well. And I think, which I probably didn't expect too much until I started, but it is very much when I started here, it's more like being in an agency in many ways than it is being in an in-house role. So although you've got the overarching in-house element, I'm dealing with all of the different heads of departments, all as I've mentioned, deal with very different target audiences, different target messages. So it is like having 10 different clients rather than just the one. So you get the kind of the agency experience, but with the benefits of being in-house.
Yeah, great. So let's move on slightly to training and skills for anybody that's interested in working in the sector. So first, did you undertake any particular training or qualifications for your role?
So I did a PR degree, so I studied that at university, which was obviously a really good footing. And then since then, because my role has then widened, I've also 3 years ago did a digital marketing degree to back it up.
Right.
So I've got the sort of the more traditional marketing degree, which has its benefits, but then it's also backed up by the digital element, which obviously at the moment is so important and crucial to have. So they complement each other quite nicely.
Great. Over and above the kind of technical skills and knowledge you have, what other skills do you use in your role?
I think the most important is the kind of the written and grammatical skills. That's essential. Whether you're writing a piece for an internal magazine or you're doing a social media post, it's so important to maintain that credibility. Say your social media posts, though they're quite short, if you were a potential client and you saw a mistake or a spelling error, you're not going to be happy sending your work to a law firm that can't spell correctly. So although it might seem minor, just having that important details in regards to how things are written and written correctly makes a real difference.
Yeah, because it's, again, that's PR, isn't it?
Yeah,
all the
so
time.
important.
In terms of gaining knowledge and experience, you talked about your degree. Was there any work experience that you got involved in with to kind of help you build your career?
So as part of my degree, I had to do a week's work placement, which I did at the University of Plymouth Press Office, which was a really good footing. So I did my week there, and then they were happy with the work that I did, so actually they offered me a job afterwards. So I stayed on for the rest of my studies, working part-time, which was brilliant. And then they also then kept me on after I graduated for a short while until I found another sort of permanent job. So I was able to build up quite a bit of work experience through them. I think actually it was that work experience that made me realise that I did really want to do PR. So you do a lot of the theory at university, but until I actually got into that press office and say started dealing with the national journalists and got that buzz of doing the actual work, that's what really made me realise I do want to do this. And where I got my passion from, more so probably from my degree, was very much from doing it in real life.
Yeah, so would you advise that students really go and try out an industry before they commit to it?
Yes, I think it definitely benefited me. Say, 'cause just doing the theory was, I found it quite interesting, but wasn't 100% sure that it was definitely the way I wanted to go. And as soon as I was in that real life environment and doing the job, loved it.
Great. And finally, what do you think the key characteristics are needed for somebody who wants to be a communications or marketing professional?
I think it helps to like people to start with. Say 90% of the job is very much dealing with people, so you've got to like them. And if you're doing a lot of events, which I do in my role, you spend a lot of time organising, hosting events. So just to be able to have that kind of social side and the abilities to deal with different people definitely helps. I think it also helps to be quite engaging and enthusiastic, because again, when you're putting these messages across, you need to make sure they're being taken in. So having that extra element does definitely help with that. And commerciality as well, I think, is a key thing. So the business obviously has its own objectives. So whatever marketing strategy you're putting in place, the ultimate aim is to meet those business objectives. So you've got to be able to understand that. And also, whatever business you work for, there's also going to be a budget in place. So you need to be able to do a plan that suits that budget. And so there's no point, taking out great big billboards and doing big pay-per-click campaigns if the business can't finance it, and also if you're not going to get a return in terms of the fees that can be generated in a law firm, that can sort of counteract it and can get that return on investment. So that commerciality is really important, especially if you want to keep kind of progressing up the career ladder.
Great. And do you have any kind of additional advice for somebody, things that you wouldn't normally like read on a job spec that you think will help someone survive in industry? Anything for a student sat in a lecture theatre thinking, I'd really like to work in that sector, but I'm not sure I'll make it?
I think the main thing with marketing is keeping up with current trends. So when I first graduated from PR and then went into wider marketing, obviously it changed hugely. With the rise of digital, it changed so much from when I graduated. So I think keeping just up to speed with all those current trends will make a real difference. That's why I did the second degree. And even since doing that, I will make sure that everything that's coming in I can keep on top of, because it's one of the most fast changing industries I think that you can work in, because of the way communication changes and the way that people listen to messages changes. And it's becoming so busy out there as well, you've got to make sure you're getting those channels correct. So keeping up to speed, I think, with all of the new ways to communicate is really, really important to make sure you can do your job effectively.
Yeah. And do you have any particular trade publications or websites or social media, the kind of feeds that you follow to keep up to date?
CIM, I follow quite a lot. Chartered Institute of Marketing, obviously they're pretty good. And the CIPR, Chartered Institute of Public Relations as well, obviously because that's my sort of original background, but again, it has a lot on there, and they'll deal a lot with, so I did a course which was about how PR can affect search engine optimization on a website. So again, so much of these things overlap, so you can get a lot of good information from these credible sources that can really help. And they are doing more and more courses down in the southwest now as well, which is definitely worth keeping on top of.
Perfect. Great, Katy, thank you so much.